Okay, we are back. I have two videos here, or two stories here. UFO incidents from 1955, and one, it looks like one takes place in Japan and the other takes place in Washington. So we're going to do both of these in one video and see how it goes here. This is continuing our series. I'm doing 1955 right now, but I'm going to do all different years, where I go over random UFO cases by year, and it's kind of like in story format. So if you like that sort of thing, definitely follow along, and let's get going. So let's see. This is location. It says Yokota Air Force Base, Japan. Number of observers were 2. Duration 2 hours. Okay. So the synopsis is missing time, it says. At the age of 13, my dad was stationed at Yokota Air Force Base outside of Tokyo. A group of us kids went camping in the foothills along a river. It was the Tanagakawa River, which led to Tachikawa or Takikawa. Okay. After eating one night, Kenny, the major's son, and I went out to a picnic bench which looked over the river. It was a moonless night and the stars were bright. I was lying on the tabletop and Kenny was lying on the seat to the left of me. We laid there looking at the stars, talking. My eye caught a star moving in a zigzag pattern across the sky. Being raised in the Air Force and my dad a pilot, I knew aircraft very well, and this was no ordinary flight pattern at that elevation, and it was no helicopter. I don't sound like one. A helicopter or a plane at all. Zigzag pattern. See, that's kind of like some of the silver discs I saw would go back in the 90s would do those zigzag-like patterns, and I've heard other people say that as well. So I got up on my elbows and in a loud voice to Kenny, I said, "Look at those." As the light was coming at us at a great speed. Oh, Jesus. What? Wait. Okay, so they were lights. Okay. So they were lights. That's what they looked like. Okay. As the light was coming at us at a great speed, it got so bright that today I think I felt the heat. Maybe he means I still think I feel the heat. Okay. Wait. Okay. This is the last thing I remembered. Oh, I see. It got so bright that he thinks he felt the heat from it. I think is what he's trying to say. This is the last thing that I remembered until we were standing at the end of the table and both of us said nothing. We returned to camp and Jack and 2 other guys with us asked where we had been. We simply answered, up at the bench. The only thing I can remember them saying was that they were just up there 15 minutes ago. Some of this is in broken English. It says, and we went to town. Kenny and I went straight to sleep. The next morning, no one could wake us until 8 o'clock when we both got up. There was nothing said about last night except they asked us if we went to town. I didn't understand why they would ask us this, nor Kenny. We hadn't gone anywhere. Oh, I see. We let it drop. So they thought that the two went to town, the other guys. Okay. And they have no memory of that. Okay. Kenny and I remained friends for a year after that incident. Years later, I remember that Kenny and I never discussed that night. Now, that was unusual for two Air Force brats seeing something come out of the sky and not saying a thing to each other or our parents. In the later 80s, I was on the road in Ohio. Oh, now in the States here, and heard a talk show host talking to someone about abduction, and it sure fit the experience that I went through. I dismissed it at the time. Months later, I told my wife about what I heard on the radio and told her of the event in Japan. She is a well-educated Dutch girl in biogenetics, and we met in California. We had been married 14 years at that time. For 14 years at that time, she said she had something to tell me. While we were sleeping in our bedroom in California, she was awakened by the presence of a being which described to a T the Greys, which is famous now. She was told to go back to sleep and no harm will come. Oh, okay. This shook me. Not only had she not told me, but what the hell was going on, right? So I went to a therapist in Omaha, Nebraska, who tried to hypnotize me. I guess I was too scared and he couldn't do it. I've tried to find Kenny or Jack. No luck so far. Huh. Okay. Well, what could that light have been? So, okay, they were laying there looking at the stars. They caught a star that was moving in a zigzag pattern across the sky. They were in the Air Force. They were raised in the Air Force. He was 13 at the time. And the light, they saw the light, and then then it started coming at them at a great speed. That's interesting. And then they didn't remember anything after that. And then they sort of came to and were standing at the end of the table. What in the heck? I don't know what to think about that. That is strange. So that's that story. That's from Japan, 1955. And then we got one more here. This is from, hold on, let me see how long it said the Japan one lasted. It said it was 2 hours of missing time. So there's definitely some missing time there. I don't know. Huh. All right, so now we go to Carnation, Washington. It's on the Tolt River and Cascade Mountains. Okay. 5 to 8 minutes was the duration, and number of observers there was 4. Let's see the synopsis here. 1955 daytime sighting of a saucer craft by a family of 4. Oh wow. While on a picnic on a Sunday in the Cascade Mountains of Washington. Okay. The family believes the craft hovered over the river, observing them and vice versa. Oh, wow. Ooh. The craft left at unbelievable speeds, and the father, a flight engineer for Boeing aircraft and former flight instructor on the B-29s of World War II, insisted the family remain silent about the sightings so his career would not be in jeopardy. Okay. So this is a longer story here. That's why I wanted to save this one. Just wanted to do two stories in this one. We'll do over more stories, like multiple ones later. We'll do another one of those. Maybe later today. Alright. So, well, let's see how it goes. See if this is interesting. Since it's a longer one. I was 13 years old, and it was a Sunday morning in July of 1955 in Washington State. I thought it was a special day from the start. The morning mellowed from a nighttime nip into a lovely crisp summer day, more like late spring and summer, and the skies were a cloudless blue. Days like that are rare in Washington State, and my parents were not about to waste such an opportunity. So, over breakfast, they suggested a picnic. Later, I sat glued to the car's window during our short drive into the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. My parents located a rather remote picnic site along the Tolt River, near the little town of Carnation, which I considered a perfect setting for our outing. Our car was not far away, but the spot was totally natural and untouched in appearance. The river was a bit too swift to wade in. Its cold glacial waters spilled over heaps of stones and boulders. The river banks were even larger heaps of stones, most of them sanded smooth by years of flooding waters. Large stands of virgin Douglas fir flanked the banks. We picnicked first. Then I started a family game of skipping stones across the water. I always did that. That's always a fun thing to do. I remember laughing at the near impossibility of skipping stones on such wild waters. Yet my dad could often manage 2 skips. I don't remember how long we played like that, but at some point, my dad picked up a slightly heavier stone and drew back his arm as though to loft the stone skyward over the river. Instead, though, he stood frozen, arm drawn back for several seconds. Okay. All right, let's continue. Let's see, where was I? So he was staring up and off to the west slightly across the river. With great alarm, okay. So he stood frozen, arm drawn back for several seconds. He was staring up and off to the west slightly across the river. Okay. With great alarm, I followed his gaze. There above us, hovering motionly, was a UFO. Oh, okay. It would be more accurate if I called it a flying saucer, for it was just that. It was as though someone had joined two round stainless steel saucers. Right. That's what they kind of what they look like from a lot of different accounts, and what I saw kind of looked like, if you combine two round stainless steel saucers. I mean, that's what mine looked like. Mine looked like that, and it kind of looked like a hockey puck too. Um, Edges together. Only these saucers had no bumps, no varying angles, and no visible portholes or openings. Now, see, some accounts of these saucers do have, things like that. Like we just went over a case in one of these previous videos where the woman described the saucer having like portholes on it. So they're not all the same looking. I could see that the saucer's mass was easily defined along the edges and solid in appearance. The sun was further to the south, and there was no glare on the saucer. It seemed to hang suspended like a monstrous steely plate. Wow. At a fairly low altitude. See, these low altitude ones are really interesting. Like the ones that are like lower, you could see them better. So at a fairly low altitude over the river, it remained there motionless as seconds stretched into an eternity. Jesus. All was quiet except for the river in my ears. As I huddled near my mom and dad, I experienced a numb uneasiness. Yeah, it's kind of how it feels when you're watching these things. From my experience too. Yes, definitely. Which was visibly shared by the rest of my family. It was not the presence of something alien that bothered me as much as the knowledge that it was watching us. Right. This is very similar to my experience with these. Very similar. And how long it had been up there, hovering, before we noticed it. Oh, yeah. How long was it there? Yeah. That's true. That's eerie. I noticed that the saucer's height was difficult to estimate. Right. Simply because I had no reference points to use for comparison, except possibly the treetops. Was the saucer huge and at a great height, or smaller and at a lower altitude? Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what he's trying to say. It'd be hard to judge that. It's hard to judge that type of thing sometimes. This is the only point where my family and I recall things differently. I remember it as hovering low over the treetops. Okay. That's, this reminds me again of that other case. Where was that case from? North Carolina, wasn't it? Yeah. Like Morehead City, North Carolina, that one. Reminds me a lot of this one, only the craft, he didn't see any like portholes on that craft. But it's only a month later. I don't know. Could be related. Maybe 1,000 feet or so above us, but the rest of my family remembers it as being higher. We all say it was 8 to 9 inches across as the eye sees the diameter. Okay. I cede to their opinion because I was the youngest of the group. How young was he? I don't know if it says. Oh, he's 13 years old. Well, I have good memory at 13 years old. Or, I mean, I remember things from back then pretty vividly. Um, and my imagination the most vivid. Although, altitude is a debatable point. What is most important is that we all saw the saucer, and for a considerable period of time, 5 minutes plus, right? It's a good amount of time. At least it's not like the 5 seconds one. I think it was that one from Pennsylvania that we were going over in an earlier video. But sometimes that's how it happens. You're seeing it for a couple seconds or a couple minutes. But at least the important thing is at least you saw it. At least you're seeing it. No matter how much time went by. Finally, the saucer started to move towards the east silently. This just sounds exactly like the ones that I saw very slowly at first, and that's how it is. They go slow at first when they start to move, and then gathering tremendous speed. That's how the ones I saw. That's what they were like. They would hover there motionless for a while, and then they would slowly pick up some speed for a while, and then after some time they would start moving a lot faster. Still no sound throughout. Whether they were motionless, going slowly or going fast, no speed. I mean, no sound at all. There's no, like, I never saw, like, any, like, exhaust trails at all from these things. See, that's another thing. Like, how are they moving like that? Like, what's making them move at those speeds? How are they doing that? It's all a big mystery. So finally the saucer started to move towards the east, silently, very slowly at first, and then gathering tremendous speed. It left no vapor trail. Never in my wildest fantasies had I ever imagined an object could move so fast. And most incredible of all was silent speed. Yeah. And remember, they're seeing this at a low altitude, so you're more prone to hear something at a low altitude, I would think. You're more prone to hear something. Even something, really soft or low sounding. That is strange. That it was like completely silent and they didn't see any vapor trail, like nothing. Yes, the river could have muffled quite a bit of noise, but we heard nothing. Well, it was closer to it wasn't that far from them either. After it was gone, my father suggested we all sit down. He was quiet and in control, and led our family discussion about what we saw. He said the UFO did not fit any aircraft known to Earth. Obviously not. This is 1955, by the way. Let's all keep that in mind. What on our earth could this have been in 1955? And I'm gonna probably be saying the same thing for all these years, but I'm just saying, like, that, man, the technology just wasn't there. Not even close. Unless it was some sort of secret experimental project. Not then, though. Like, he absolutely discounted weather balloons based on the fact that we could all see enough of the top portion of the saucer to accurately judge its total shape. Okay. No, definitely not weather balloons. Weather balloons, that's a really ridiculous explanation for any of these incidents. Besides, my father was not making presumptuous statements. He had been a flight instructor for the B-29 bomber during World War II at Matherfield, California. And after the war, he was a flight engineer with Boeing Aircraft Company of Seattle/Renton, Washington. Furthermore, he was an enthusiast, leisure pilot, flying often on his spare time. My father also said that the saucer would reach New York City in 20 minutes or less, traveling at its departure speed. Oh my gosh. See, this is definitely a very authentic sounding. I believe this story for sure. In 1955, I think this is a really credible story. I'm just saying. In 1955, nothing from our Earth, to my knowledge, could travel that speed. My father made us promise that, with only a few possible exceptions, we would keep this experience a family secret. He feared social backlash and loss of his job at Boeing if we reported the sighting. Well, I can completely understand that. Usually, not always, I managed to keep his rule. After my father passed away in 1974, I started to speak about the sighting more often. I still wonder if speaking won't jeopardize my career as well. I hope not. What a story there. That's a really good, vivid experience. And there were four of them saw it. So that's good. Yeah, I tend to think this case here is very credible. Okay, so as always, if you know more about this case or the other case, the one from Japan, definitely let me know. I starting to think that the Washington one, the one from Washington State, there's more on this, maybe. Maybe some articles on this or something. It sounds like a pretty big case here, there. A pretty important one to look into. That is a really good one. One of the best I've come across for 1955. So, yeah, let me know what you all think, and I will be back with some more UFO videos soon. Thanks for watching.